Hey everyone, long time no see. Brian Christian with Father of Glory Global Ministries. I just wanted to come on here now that we're parked in Minnesota and we got a little bit of internet. We haven't had internet for days, it seems like, passing through Iowa and Tennessee. But I just want to kind of come on here and revelate with you and just share some things that are on my heart. And I'm really excited. We've had some amazing times with multiple groups of people over the last couple of months in Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, um, New York, and now we're in Minnesota, hanging out with some family that we love dearly. Just hanging out. We'll be having some private glory gatherings with just a few. Just hanging out, having fun. You know, a lot of people don't get to see everything that goes on behind the scenes when we get together with all these groups of people. What they do get to see is the hour and a half, 2 hours of video, which is like the meeting time. But our time together is day and night. Well, you know, anybody anybody wants to call me when I'm in a conference weekend, they're not going to get in touch with me the entire weekend because we're not just gathering for a meeting. Our focus, our ministry is not based in meetings. Um, we hear the term organic and we go to the extreme and we think organic means have no direction, have no strategy, just get together and stare at each other and hope something happens. And that isn't organic. Organic is simply you being you. It's you with no facades, and you have a vision, you have a direction, you have a strategy, and you're implementing it together. So for us, the strategy is we will have gatherings in which we focus in on that which will promote community. And then before and during and after these gatherings, we're all together, just completely engulfed in one another, sharing one another, having relationship with one another, because that's really what it's all about. And one of these days, maybe I can record that. Problem is we can't get a microphone passed around quick enough. That's why we don't. But, you know, some have mistaken us for, the Hollywood version of ministry driven or just wanting to promote meetings. And that's not it at all. But you do need a point of contact to come together. You do need a time, a place, you let people know, people come together. Even God invited people to the wedding feast, and so it's really important. Hey, Leanne, sorry. Hey, Leanne, good to see you. Good to see you, Adon, Norlene, Sherry, and all those that have come on. Bless you guys. Welcome to the realm outside of time and space. But yeah, we had an amazing time. Good to see you, Elaine. I didn't forget about you. Hopefully you saw my message. I do have to apologize. We have not been as consistent as we'd like to with our counseling sessions, some of our conferences we had to cancel. We've just been having a lot of issues with this RV. I think we're coming to the last issue on it, hopefully. So we're looking to get that taken care of. For those of you that have been reading my posts about the front end breaking, the bar that holds the whole sidewalls on is broken. So we're driving very carefully to find a shop. But where was I? I was talking about something before I got sidetracked. When we think about what it means to be spiritual, we have all these different ideas. And I know that none of them are necessarily wrong ideas. I think we all walk through different seasons. We all walk through kind of like as kids. Okay. When you're kids, you live in a world of make-believe, right? Nothing wrong with that. And you live in a state of wonder and awe. And I remember as a kid, I used to do what's called playing house. You play like you're adults. You play like it's your house. You play like you're living your life like adults. Okay. And I think a lot of us, that's what we do in the spirit many a times. Thank you, Elaine. I appreciate that. I am forgiven. Hallelujah. But we play house, and we pretend because we don't have an identity. So we just kind of pretend who we are until we finally realize who we are. And I think many a times, a lot of our spiritual formulas, our methods, are what I call placebos, is what we use. And there's a place for that, and there's a time for that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, especially in the earlier parts of our journey. But eventually, we kind of come to the end of trying to get somewhere in God. And usually when we're in that state, we're actually ready to throw in the towel because we've been trying to be mystical like our spiritual brothers and sisters who have visions and encounters and hear from God. And so we're trying to just get that because somewhere we believe we lack something. And so there is a provoking through others who have kind of broken through that veil that provokes others to begin the journey of wearing yourself out so that you can throw in the towel and so you can enter the true mystical dimension of Christ, which is simply being okay in your own skin, simply you loving you and being able to love everyone else and simply love your life. And the longer I journey this out, even though I do speak these mysteries of eternity and origin, which I totally agree with and totally believe are the lens in which we live out the human experience and are able to embrace the human experience, I think that we have separated things. And when I say separated, I don't mean duality, even though duality separates left and right, better or worse, smaller, bigger, slower, faster, good, evil. And we have that. And obviously all of us want to get out of that side of duality. But divinity and humanity have never had a beginning from one to the other. They've never had, and for a long time, when you hear the term in the beginning, we tend to think of the beginning as a time period or the beginning of mankind or the beginning of the earth or whatever. But there really wasn't a beginning. That word beginning is not connected to a time. It's not connected to linear time. And it really, when you're dealing with in the beginning, what you're really seeing is that which has no beginning, or in the first fruits of God's idea, or in God's consciousness, or in the seed of the masculinity of God, the giving side of God, that which is being poured out, that which is being realized. And so I think we've mistaken our humanity as though it had a beginning of civilization because we read Adam and Eve and God made Adam and they're the first ones, but it's really actually not talking about that at all. There's a lot of allegory involved there. And so Adam and Eve might represent spirit slowed down divisibility, but forget about them being the first people on the face of the earth. We know this because, well, Cain goes off to another city where there's a whole bunch of people and he marries his wife, which according to modern day Christianity, it's all based in incest. And I don't necessarily agree with that. Let us make mankind in our image. Okay, let us. Now, there's only one spirit. We see that in Corinthians. Paul says there's one Father, one God, one baptism, one Spirit, who is above all, in all, and through all. And in Isaiah, I am God and there is none beside me. So we know there's only one Spirit, but he's also the Father of spirits. And so they can cause some confusion here because is he one? Is he many? What if he's both? What if God is the many as the one, the Elohim, the I am? And what if that's always been? What if God has always been journeying out himself in multiple manifestations and multiple expressions, and that expression of God wasn't separate from the finite? What if the finite really isn't about knowing nothing and only seeing through a pinhole, What if the finite actually means ongoing motion, movement, and expression, and the infinite is a paused, observed divinity that never changes? And what if both of those have always been? Genesis tells us, let me just read this to you. I'm kind of talking slow today. Oh, I went out of focus. Don't know what happened there. Hopefully it'll come back. There we go. I'm talking slow today. I'm doing my best to try to talk slower. I've been told I talk too fast, and I try not to, but I get so excited I can't help it. But let's go to Genesis for a minute here. I'm really relaxed today. I'm just going to take my time. We're just going to have an awesome chat. And there's a realm, by the way, so be aware of that realm that you've always been in. And if you need me as a point of contact or a placebo effect to remember who you are, then so be it, and receive that realm and that dimension of glory and the miraculous that's flowing right now, which is simply consciousness. But in Genesis chapter 2, it says in verse 1, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he had rested from all his work which God had created and made. Now that word created and made is not making something out of nothing like we would do if we build something that we've never seen, even though the idea was already built in our mind, showing that already existed. We simply manifested it. That idea came out of the substance of the way in which we also perceive ourselves. If I perceive myself as a failure, I don't believe I'm going to have an adequate idea. So the moment I perceive myself as who I truly am, I begin to exercise a confidence and the stepping out into ideas in which I now can put forth effort through the consistent view of myself in true identity to now manifest that in the natural realm. So that idea was hidden within how I view myself. And it's either observed because I've embraced who I truly am, or it's hidden because I've rejected who I am. Therefore, our ability to create isn't creating something from nothing. It's a mirror reflection of a parable reality of our own selves being illustrated and manifested in a creative way, in multiple ways. And I believe God did it the same way. God didn't create something out of nothing. That word create and made means to squeeze out, ordain, fatten, begotten, manifest. So God simply made visible that which is of himself in a completely different plane of experience. And that's what I believe our humanity is. And so when we're dealing with the heavens and the earth being finished, they never actually began. They were only finished in the sense of what the outcome of our human consciousness would contain and manifest, giving us the assurance that we would not have to add to or take away from that which is and has always been, especially in this human experience where we're experiencing levels of duality and contradiction that would thus discourage the ongoing pursuit of perfection, which is simply you being you. Okay. Hopefully this is making some sense. And so he blessed the seventh day and sanctified it. Now, when did this seventh day begin? Was it after the sixth day? No, it was not. It was not linear time. Verse 1 is chapter 2, verse 1 and 2, or 1 through 3, is really Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So when it says the earth was without form and void, it's basically dealing with the absence of consciousness through the human lens, even though the human experience was fully present in the one, known as the many, known as us, chosen in him from before the foundations of the world, which means we were there before a beginning in him, in the glorified state, which it goes on in chapter 2, verse 3, and it says, and God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his works which God created and made. or which God had manifested and become conscious of. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were manifested or realized. Okay. And so we got to understand here that the generations of the heavens and the generations of the earth is the same generations of that which is glorified, that which is, as Romans 8 says, you were called, justified, and glorified, past tense, which means this is all happening in the now, but I'm going to put it in a linear time view for those that are stuck in linear time, from whence we came. Jesus also spoke that. I'm the Son of Man that came from heaven and is in heaven. And he was in his right mind. Okay. Being in heaven is you being in your right mind, because you are heaven. Heaven is not a place you go, since there is no space or time. I was talking to our friends here in Minnesota yesterday about this. I said, look, if you're sitting in a room right now, you're viewing me on a screen as an individual. I'm seeing little pictures of each person commenting. Now, if we're in a room, we're looking across from each other. We're experiencing a different reality. It doesn't mean that it's bad, but we're viewing a mirror reflection, or seeing dimly a deeper reality, because I'm seeing you 3 feet away from me, 5 feet away from me, 500 miles away from me, whatever, depending if I'm on video or face to face. So what am I seeing? I'm seeing individuality, but yet there's no space or time. So am I actually seeing the ultimate reality? No, I am not. Now, does it take away from that, or should I throw out me talking to you as a total illusion? No, I shouldn't, because divinity chose to have the human experience as it is. We did not screw it up. God did not mess it up and have to come up with a plan B. It was, everything was on purpose, and there is a purpose for everything under heaven, right? And so, and just like Sherry just said, so there was never a way to leave the garden. We never left the garden, only in our minds, only in our awareness. But even that was planned. And because if there's one screw up in here, it all falls on God. And therefore, God is practicing divinity, and his divinity is not divine. And therefore, he's messed up, and there's no reason to be his experiment. So God is divinity, and all of that crumbles if any of this was on accident, or if we could screw it up. Now, it doesn't mean there's no accountability or consequences for our actions in the material, visible, domestic realm. There is, and we helped wire that matrix together to resist who we're not, to manifest who we are. All of that is on purpose. But if just for a minute, I want you to imagine that the heavens and the earth were already in the beginning, which is not a beginning, but it's the generations of the heavens and the earth in the day. And that day is everything that is already complete, nothing added to or taken away. It is known as that which is finished for our human experience's sake, to be able to bridge the gap and to enter the rest that we've always been in as spirit, but our mindset and ego have been living in the twisted version of duality. So let me kind of put in duality here that will kind of help a little bit. Duality would be Adam and Eve eating of the tree of knowledge, okay? And so the tree of knowledge of good and evil is different than, as Hebrews says, having your senses exercised to discern good and evil. Remember, they have become like us. They have eaten of the tree. They've become like us. So I want you to understand that there's a glorified, divine Christ mind realm of duality that does not need to be reconciled. And there is the human lie of separation mentality of duality, in which we entangle ourselves, and the visible physical realm becomes our ultimate reality as a measurement of space and time, linear time. And that's the life Jesus said, I want you to lose that life, not that you lose the connection with that which appears to be individualized or separate or any of that or contradictory, but you do not define your identity through those things. You use them as pretty much a launching pad into a depth of your mindset, proving to itself the reality of the attributes of God that cannot be exhausted, you know? And so, like Sherry just said, in the day you eat thereof, you shall die. Let me put this up here on the screen so everybody can see this. In the day you eat thereof, you shall die in that place. You will be consumed by a concept of time and place. That's right. Now, is times and seasons which are kept by the Father important for our human experience? Yes. You know, kind of like memory. I mean, what do we really, why did we come up with seconds and minutes and hours? Well, we did that to try to keep track of our life and also keep track of times so we wouldn't lose our memory. Now, this was man's concept. But one of the things you got to understand, it's good to see you, Michelle. I just released that double glory bliss over your life. You know, one of the things we got to understand about memory is not the proof you have a past, because when you first encountered something that you now see as memory based on a timeline experience, it was in the present when you experienced it. And when you remember it, you're presently experiencing it. And so we tend to think that we are remembering the past. But you ever notice painful situations of the past you can't seem to escape in the present because it's present. And so it is present in your mind. And so we have to be able to glean from duality without becoming entangled in it. So I think I called this message, can't remember what I called it, Divinity, Humanity, and Duality, and how God chose duality in the sense of the many as the one, which means the many is a reflection of the masculine and the feminine interactions of giving and receiving. While the masculine gives the seed, the feminine receives the seed and conceives and brings forth. And then through the mixture of both masculine and feminine, there is a now giving of the seed in expression in the human experience. A good example here is to see the angel in the book of Revelation 10. It was the angel that told, let's just go there so I don't mess it up here. In Revelation 10, I love this because the masculine and the feminine in eternity are kind of allegorically revealed here in Revelation 10, where it talks about the mighty angel that came down from heaven clothed with the cloud. We know that that's the cloud of witness. So we see here that this angel is who we are as the generations of the heavens, that which is glorified, that which has no beginning, that which is eternal, that's clothed with the cloud, or getting ready to put on the human experience from a completely different view, if I could say it. I do believe we've had encounters of the angelic and eternal encounters of the heavenlies that we think we were just taken to heaven, when these are eternal memories that are in the now, that are actually the memories of our origin, in which we've already lived out a parallel example of our human experience here through this lens, even though we never left and there's not been space or time. So we're simply seeing dimly that which is, but we're about to remember a face-to-face. Man, I'm getting whacked right now. Shakalaka, bam, bam. Whoa. Thank you, Father. I just thank you. You know, I'm never going to outgrow my need for my daddy. And Jesus never did neither. Because you know what? God has always been a family. And, you know, I know we say source, and I'm okay with saying source and energy and all of that. But if he's just source and energy, there was no reason to be here and have a relationship. We should just be energy zapping around and kind of aimlessly. But what makes the energy have purpose is family. And so family is something that's always been there. Anyway, let's look at this. And Man, I'm so whacked. In Revelation chapter 10, woo, shakalaka. In Revelation chapter 10, there's this angel that came down from heaven. In other words, it's let us manifest man in our image, okay? Clothed with the cloud, that's the many is the one, that's the cloud of witness. A rainbow was upon his head, all right? That's carrying the promises of God, all right? And all the multi-dimensional frequencies and colors and dimensions of God, all right? And his face was, as it were, the sun, S-U-N, which is the same as S-O-N, by the way, in the Hebrew perspective. That's why in Malachi it says the sun, S-U-N, shall arise with healing in his wings, all right? And his feet as pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a little book open. Now, what's that little book open? Well, in Malachi, it says that we spoke often one to another, and a book of remembrance was written. So when we were chosen in him from the foundation of the world, it wasn't that all of a sudden God handpicked a bunch of people. It's that God chose himself in the human experience. He said, it's time to become conscious of another dimension of myself, another side of myself. Okay. And that's where he hid himself from himself to never come to the end of himself, and concealed himself as matter and manifested as kings to search out his own heart. Right. And so if you go on here, this little book here, I believe is the book of remembrance, where we spoke often one to another, where we design this matrix or this looking glass or this kaleidoscope that we're gazing through as we're not even actually here. And that's what he's holding in his hand. Okay. And it says in verse 4, and when the seven thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write, and I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, seal up the things which the seven thunders uttered, and write them not. There's nothing really very mystical about the seven thunders. I know for a long time, the seven thunders. What is it about? Well, the seven thunders is connected with some previous chapters here in Revelation 4, where John saw a slain lamb with 7 eyes and 7 horns, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth. And what that is it's the fullness of who you are. And it's the sound of the Father's perspective of you. So the 7 thunders is your identity from eternity vibrating by remembrance into your human experience. Okay. It's you becoming conscious of your origin. Okay. It's really actually simple. Again, 7th day, that's where everybody's at, known as one day. We've only been here one day, and it's not a linear day. It's been the day of the Lord. Okay. That we have been in the entire time. And so we see this angel, and a little bit later on here, he tells John to eat the book and so on and so forth. But you'll see here in verse 6, it says that this angel, in verse 5, he's standing there lifting up his hand to heaven. And it says in verse 6, and he sware by him that lives forever and ever. You notice here that there is not swear words here, but he's swearing. In other words, he's standing on the reality that there is no death. He's standing on the reality of immortality. He's swearing by him that lives forever and ever. This is the introduction here in this next place here. I'm swearing by the reality that there is no time or space, and you never had a beginning. That's what he's swearing by. And it says, who created heaven, the things that are in the earth. And now he's showing these multi-dimensional lenses of that which manifested spirit, slowed down the visibility, and the things that are therein, and the sea and the things that are therein, all the parable reflective realm. And it says that there should be time no longer. Now, there's never been time. So that's how we redeem the time. As Paul said, for the days are evil. Redeeming the time is simply coming out of your own conclusion of measurements. And I know I use the term dimension, multi-dimension. And when I say multi-dimensional, I don't look at it in the term of dimensions of measurements like in linear dimensional time or third dimension. A third dimension actually doesn't exist. Some will talk about the chakras and they'll stack them. They'll have a low chakra, they'll have it on the body. And we're kind of looking at this lower to higher, just like third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, as though it's layers and stacked, but it's actually not any of that. We just use that for our human, understanding to try to grasp the unveiling of things. But it's really just consciousness, and it's all wrapped together like spaghetti that's based on your perception of your life. And so there really isn't a going from a third to a fourth to a fifth. It's what you're conscious of a third, but it's all interwoven and all mixed together as one, that you're just simply journeying out in your awareness rather than ascending into as though you're going somewhere. So that takes a lot of the labor out of getting where you need to go, But it says that there should be time no longer. In other words, no more concept of being bound by the wrong perception of duality, which is basing my life on the visible physical realm. And that's what Adam and Eve did. They covered themselves with fig leaves. They realized they were naked. Their whole life became about the visible physical as their reality. And everything they judged about who they are and who they are not was now based on the repercussions of the visible realm, rather than the spiritual reality of that which was within, who they truly were, their origin, and this type of thing. Okay. So we're returning to that. That's the book of remembrance that we've got to eat. But this angel here is the masculine. This is the angel that's giving, that's releasing. And then it says in verse 7, but in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as has declared to his servants, the prophets. Okay. So again, we're dealing with the seventh angel. We're dealing with mysteries being finished, or the full unveiling of that which is complete. We're dealing with time no longer, the book of remembrance, and the masculinity manifest in this angel. Now, if you skip over to chapter 12, you're going to see a woman that's clothed with the sun, the S-U-N. Now, remember, this is the angel that was just previously in chapter 10 that's now behind the woman. This isn't the sun above a woman's head. This is the angel with the face of the sun that's now gazing into a human experience. Okay, so you can see here the glorified state of the generations of the heavens, us chosen in him from before the foundation of the world, is this angel that's getting ready to put on a human experience cloud, that's carrying a book for our humanity to eat. It's almost like John here represents our counterpart human experience, in which who we are as spirit is waking us, our human minds, up to the reality of who we've always been, as we're giving ourselves the book of what we wrote for ourselves. I mean, really, John, he has this encounter with the same angel over and over again. It's in chapter, what was it? I want to say in chapter 5 or chapter 4? Remember when it says, let me just go there real quick. The right hand of him that sat on the throne, chapter 5, the Lion of Judah. There was a book given. It was sealed, and there was a strong angel that came. So the same strong angel there is the mighty angel in chapter 10. He was a strong angel. In other words, it was seen dimly, only a partial unveiling of what was going on. But as the book is open now, the book is now open in the hand of the same angel in chapter 10. It was closed in chapter 5, but he's a strong angel in chapter 5 with a closed book. Now he's a mighty angel in chapter 10 with an open book. And now he's all described. There's a description, there's a persona, there's an expression. There's a lot more detail, and that seems to be our own journey, is it not? That we journey through a general unveiling of truth, and then all the details begin to pop out, and we come full circle, and we begin to realize the intention of God in what we first encountered, that now has become our theme. Man, there's such a realm of revelation right now. Man. So the same angel that John encounters later on, even past chapter, I don't remember where it's at. It might be in chapter 14 or 15, somewhere around there. He sees the same angel again, and he falls down and he worships this angel. And the angel says, "Don't worship me. I'm one of the prophets." Well, wait a second here. I thought this guy was an angel, or I thought it was an angel. No, the angel was really a prophet that was a strong angel with a closed book to manifest a mighty angel with an open book, which shows me two things. Well, this is what it shows me. It shows me that in eternity, in the invisible realm, as spirit, as the many as one, we were in the closed book. We spoke often one to another, and a book was written, but it was closed. And it could not be fully comprehended or understood in our holy conversation, which is in heaven, Philippians 3:20, until the fullness of the Godhead in bodily form, which is the slowed down spirit manifesting in visible form, slowing down to have a moment with that which was moving at the speed of light. And that moment, unfortunately, got entangled in a twisted version of duality, which is measurements, time, and space, which has kept us competing with ourselves, self-protecting ourselves, hiding from ourselves, and trying to measure up to our false expectations. And yet, all of that has become the backdrop of contradiction that actually proves the attributes of God that could not be experienced in the invisible realm, but can only be experienced in a slowed down version of itself, known as the finite expressive realm of motion and movement. And so, John bows down to this angel. Don't worship me. I'm one of the prophets. Okay. And what was he really seeing? Well, what he was seeing is himself bringing a book to himself to write the book of Revelation that was already foreordained in eternity for it to be written out. And hidden within the book of Revelation is also the book of remembrance in multiple ways. A lot of the book of Revelation, yes, there's the historical side of AD 70 and all of that, and I get that. So we audience relevance. But the book of Revelation, the last is first and the first is last. So the book of Revelation has a lot of allegorical view of the eternal hidden within itself that is actually pre-Genesis in that sense. And it's really a revelation of divinity, while the Gospels, four Gospels, is a revelation of Christ's humanity. The book of Revelation is a revelation of the divinity of Christ. Okay, does that make sense? Shakalaka. All right. Now let's look at this again because real quick, the open book back in chapter 10 in his hand is the reality is the same thing connected to wisdom crying out to the simple minded. Wisdom built the house. Come in here. Come and eat of the bread, drink of the wine. That's us in eternity as glorified humanity, but not in a human form or in a visible way. We're living out the ongoing expression of unity and eventually had to slow down to experience the embrace of that union at a deeper level known as the human experience. And so duality in the glorified sense or in the renewed mind is the banquet table of divine exchange. It's not the lesser or bad or good. It's not the comparison anymore. It's the divine exchange of covenant, of relationship. Duality is the place where God has relationship with himself. Because if there isn't a give and take expression of an ongoing conversation, there's the absence of duality, but there's also the absence of any interaction. So duality in and of itself does not need to be fixed. We don't need to be redeemed from duality. We need to untangle ourselves from the perception that we have been separated from who we truly are, from God, and we need to be separated from space and time perception as the foundation of our reality. Now, we can use space and time in certain aspects of the domestic and in certain proofs of the fruitfulness of spiritual reality now being consistent in our human interaction. Because God does want to restore the years that the cankerworm and the locust has eaten. And we know that the gray head has wisdom. So we do know that as we get older and we mature in certain areas where the time mentality is utilized to cause us to cease from our own works and enter the rest, there is a place for that. Now, let's go real quick here to chapter 12. So remember, in chapter 10, there's the angel with the face of the sun. In chapter 12, there's the woman clothed with the sun. Well, what is going on here? The first was the angel with the face of the sun clothed with the cloud. Okay? So that's all of us doing it together. In the masculinity, we're all sent as Jesus was sent. He came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life. That's the masculinity of God. Okay, that's the same thing as the angel with the face of a sun, clothed with a cloud. Now we have a great wonder in heaven, a woman that's clothed with the sun. So we see the husband clothing and covering the wife. But what we really are seeing here is the divinity of spirit, which is love that covers a multitude of sins, which is a mistaken identity, which was adopted in our human experience, which is the feminine. So the wife is the visible human experience, and the husband is my identity in eternity, as in divinity. And so this is us looking upon us, angels desiring to look into salvation, and ministering spirits sent forth to yourself in a timeline who would inherit salvation or who would wake up to the reality that they actually were never in time. And we come into this place in which we are now birthing the man-child, or birthing the slowed down version of ourselves in the masculinity, or the masculinity and the femininity that are distinct, not as separate from one another, but are in relationship with one another, which gives the expression back and forth. And that's why we're in a wheel within a wheel in Ezekiel 1 that's full of eyes. Those eyes are all looking at each other, smiling. It's the cloud of witness. It's all of us. It's the race set before us. It's that which continually enfolds upon itself in an embrace. Father and Son would be duality on the divine, because there's a giving and a receiving. I only do what I see the Father doing, but it's the Father in me doing the works. So there is a giving and receiving that's going on all sides here. And none of it is a negative duality. Duality is the banqueting table of divine exchange. And it's divine exchange not for your humanity to ascend into some spiritual place to escape your humanness, but for your humanity to blossom in the revelation that it is divinity slowed down. Okay? It is spirit slowed down. Now, when I say divinity slowed down, I'm not trying to say that in my human form, I am God and everybody needs to come and worship me, because all of that, most of that is all twisted, because most people don't know what worship actually is. People think idolatry is bowing down to a goat's head or a Buddha, when idolatry is about imagery, and imagery is about the mind. That's why God answers you according to the idols of your heart. So in other words, he'll meet you where you're at in the way you perceive yourself. And the way you perceive yourself is going to be how you see God. And so if you're in a twisted image of yourself, you will create the God of your own making. And therefore, everything bad that happens to you is God's judgment, is wrath, it's a demon, it's a devil. And you will live out your idolatry, which is twisted imagery. Imagery is engraven in the mind. It's that which is concluded upon as reality. So it has nothing to do with the visible physical realm. Now, what people did is they did it in the physical realm, living out their internal twisted imagery or wickedness, as it says in James, put away. What does it say? Let's look at James here for a second. Shakalaka. James, sorry, I didn't talk slow. I tried to talk slow. Now I'm talking fast again. Where is it? Verse 21. Wherefore lay apart all filthiness and overflow of naughtiness or of wickedness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word, which is able to save your soul. Now, it's not spirit here, it's soul. Your spirit don't need to be saved. Never has. Your spirit is God. There is no other spirit but one spirit, so you don't have some separate human spirit. Your spirit, there's only one spirit. But your soul is the diversity of God that was hidden in Christ, known as you. But that you-ness is not a separate version, like separate from God. It is the diversity of God's own subconscious within himself. Just like you aren't conscious of your subconscious, you're conscious of what? 3.5% is what scientists say. We are 3.5% conscious of our subconscious. And the rest of it is hidden, right? Well, what do you think the invisible God was? A level of consciousness, but subconsciousness was hidden, that now manifested in the human experience for God to reveal himself to become fully conscious. And so yet it would have to be walked out as we blindfolded ourselves, put on duality for a time in the sense of the lie of separation, in the sense of contradiction, so that the backdrop would be created in which divinity would now have the ability to express all the attributes of divinity that could not express in invisibility. How does invisibility express? In intention. Intention is not an expression, or intention is not even known until it's expressed. And so you cannot have the understanding of somebody's intentions unless they have expressed long enough for you to discern their intentions. So how could God express his intentions as the invisible God? He couldn't. Therefore, God has always had humanity, and God's always been mankind. But mankind has not always been slowed down in consciousness, or at least until, well, once we became conscious. So your humanity is God's consciousness. Now, again, even that we can't say hasn't always been, because now we're back into time. But we know that there is an appointed time outside of time, which is God's timing of the suddenly and the unveiling of all things. Now, that right there is the only way our humanity can get it. There is no verbiage I can give you to actually explain the fact that humanity even really never slowed down. Because if it did, then it took time, didn't it? All right. So, but we're having to put these things in a parable because our humanity chose to put it in a parable, because we chose this virtual reality for a purpose, for a plan, and we didn't choose it to fix it. We didn't choose it to get out of it. We didn't choose it to graduate from it. Why are we trying to escape our humanity and somehow get into the spirit? That right there is really the wrong duality that we need to come out of. The right duality is the divine exchange of my identity and eternity being my humanity slowed down as I look into a looking glass of a conscious awareness of a spiritual thought and a reminiscing of a possibility that might not be full reality, but just simply a vision of divinity that has considered the human experience, and thus I am experiencing it at some level. That'll get you whacked. So, and I do believe we did choose. I believe we chose everything. I believe we chose everything. Now, I do believe that that doesn't mean that everything that happens in our life is divinely orchestrated in and of itself. I do believe that there are two sides of this, that there's God, that all things God made was good, but we also know that man was made upright, but he had schemes. So we know that our humanity in duality schemed, and there was repercussions and backlashes and, and all of that. And eventually we would graduate out of continuing to do the same stupid stuff over and over again. but yet God works all things together for good. So he's utilizing everything. And even though some actions of people and situations are not necessarily all pleasurable and feel good, can we learn the lesson from what we're walking through? Can we glean from everything? And can it manifest as goodness? Yes, it can. So I think there is a balance here. I think we can easily go overboard and go completely extreme any which direction. So just try to balance it. And the best way to balance it is have your mystical encounters with God. You know, have your encounters, but realize that your humanity is the beautiful expression of that encounter in and through one another. So everything you encounter with you and God is to be dispersed at the table of duality, known as the masculinity and the femininity of divine exchange within one another. I agree. Jamie Miller had a great question. So as we experience in our humanity, its divinity slowed down to visibility so we can get it? Yes, so we can get it. Why? Because divinity without humanity could not. Divinity without humanity is the infinite that has no expression. It cannot express because it cannot change. It's the sameness of God that changes not. And the infinite without the finite cannot go on forever, for the forever motion and expression of the echo of foreverness is found in the motion and expression of the finite. And so the finite didn't come to be. The finite is the glorified state of divinity in motion that slowed down to a parable version of itself to embrace itself at a deeper level than the invisible dimension of God. So the fullness of the Godhead is in bodily form, not in spirit form. And that's what I want to tell you today. The most spiritual thing you could ever be and do is to embrace your humanity as wholeness. Not as I'm a screw up. I can't stand my flesh. I can't stand my mind. I just need to get in the spirit. No, what you need to do is let spirit consume every human conclusion that has kept you in the lie of separation and the wrong version of duality, which is you judging you based on your circumstances, your situations, what other people are doing, what the world tells you shouldn't be, all the labels, all the things you judge yourself for because we're competing with trying to keep up with the Joneses. You know, all of these kinds of things is the duality that we're coming out of. The duality that is the bridge of the masculine and the feminine having a covenant relationship as one is a beautiful thing. That's the giving and the receiving, the divine exchange, divinity and humanity. It's spirit and soul. It's discerning good and evil. And let's go to Hebrews and I'll finish with this. Hallelujah. Oh man, this is good stuff. Now, you know, just remember, I'm rambling here, guys. So I'm not expecting everybody to take everything I'm saying verbatim as truth. Everybody's got their truth. And I'm rambling because I want to reveal and release part of the truth I'm carrying. And I know that we do carry truth for each other. And I know that we have all our members written in our book. In other words, we have all of our divine connections that we're remembering our holy conversation in eternity through the interaction here. But just, you know, search this out for yourself. I'm not trying to build you a doctrine here. I'm just trying to reveal to you just a point of contact for you to enter into a place of rest and peace in your own humanity where you don't need to try and measure up. You don't need to try and get somewhere that you're going to frustrate yourself. I know this because I was the king of frustration here. I was Mr. Perfectionist. I'm going to get it all. Could never reach that damn carrot. No matter how much I tried, that carrot was right out of reach. And you know what? We were the carrot the entire time. All right. So in Hebrews 5, we see here that It says, verse 13, for everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongs to them that are of full age or mature, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Now, here, what it's really talking about is not discerning the tree of knowledge of good and evil, as in eating of that tree in the lie of separation. This is about discerning the whole purpose of why we ate the tree, which is everything I just explained. This is you finding the goodness of God in every contradiction. Because if you actually look at the whole chapter, meat here is not about somebody getting up and giving an awesome revelation, and that was the meat of the word. No, it's the word of righteousness. Being skillful in the word of righteousness is the meat. But what is the word of righteousness? It's not the scriptures. We are living epistles, the epistles of Christ written in each other's hearts. It's being convinced of righteousness. The Spirit shall come and convince you that you're not what you thought you were as a sinner in mistaken identity, but that you're convinced you are his righteousness, and your ego has, the God of this world, your ego has now been judged. Right? And so that's the strong meat. And the strong meat here is to view your entire life. Look at this chapter. Let's go back to first couple verses. For every high priest taken from among men is ordained for men in things pertaining to God. You came here for everybody else, not yourself. So that means everything you've walked through was never about you. It was about relatability for others. Okay, it goes on, it says, you were ordained for men in things pertaining to God, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins, which basically means you're going to walk through it. So that you can have compassion on the ignorant. In other words, you will not have compassion. We have a level of compassion, human compassion. We feel bad or we feel empathetic for people that are hurting. But you know where we really feel the compassion that carries the virtue of eternal bliss and the supernatural miraculous realms that now supersedes natural law? We carry that compassion when we've tapped into our own trauma that we realized was we walked through it because we chose love, eternally chose to walk through that trauma beforehand for the purpose of being the conduit of the grace of God to the one we are sent to. That is a compassion that actually wakes up people. So we can have compassion on the ignorant, them that are out of the way, for that he himself is also compassed with infirmity. And by reason hereof, he ought, as for the people, so also for himself, to offer for sins. And no man takes this honor unto himself, but he that is called of God, as was Aaron. So also Christ glorified not himself to be made a high priest, but he that said unto him, you are my son, today have I begotten you. That's the word begotten is also created and made, which is why we weren't created and made. As he says also in another place, you are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek, who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplication with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard in that he feared. Now, was he afraid? Like, oh, he feared? No. That word fear there is connected to the fear of the Lord, which is to know in the intentions of God for what he's currently walking through. The present suffering is nothing compared to the glory that shall be revealed. Why do you think he needed the Mount of Transfiguration? Because he was focused on, oh, the Son of Man's going to suffer. But then he was transfigured. He tasted of the outcome of that suffering, which was glorification and redemption and reconciliation. And so now when he came down off the mountain, he set his face to Jerusalem, to where he'd be taken up, not crucified. He was now focused on the benefit of what he was about to walk through, which gave him the ability to partner with grace to endure it. See, our inability to endure situations is because we have the wrong perspective of what we're in. We think we're in something that's harming us or threatening us, when we're actually in something that is removing all the breakable parts of us that we've been protecting, which is our only threat. Everything breakable in you is the facade you've adopted, which isn't you. And so he feared. In other words, his mind came into the clarity of not judging by eyes or ears, but in righteousness. And he was able to endure because he had a revelation of a glorification and a transfiguration before he ever went to the cross, which was the outcome of going there. So everything you're walking through, why do you think you walk through a glorified time in which you get all these realms and revelations, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose in your life and you're in this terrible place? You're not in a terrible place. You got a foretaste of who you are in a glorified state known as an encounter, that now you're walking through a process to now manifest that so that you have fruit that remains, so that it's now practical experience, not just a spiritual hope that someday God might return or something. Verse 8, though he were a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered, and being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. So Jesus became the author because he accessed the Christ within him. Okay. Now, he says here, now, when you go to verse 11, it says, of whom we have many things to say and hard to be uttered, seeing you are dull of hearing. For when for the time you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again what are the first principles of the oracles of God, and become such as need milk and not strong meat. See, a teacher here isn't somebody who just gets up and teaches. See, I'm not demonstrating the heart of a teacher right now. The heart of a teacher is one whose life itself teaches, and whose life is their teacher. So I've allowed my life, all the good, the bad, and the ugly in my duality perception, to teach me how to let go of my need to self-protect, to ascend, to do anything, to get anything, to come to the place of utilizing everything for the purpose or for the sake of everyone else, and so that the death that's working in me is somebody else's life. Okay, that's meat, and that's what a teacher is. So I've got to return to the first oracles. I got to go back to these oracles, which were these times in my life that I thought was trauma, which God sees as glory, because the intention behind me walking through that was I agreed to do it. God send me to that generation, the fatherless generation, the generation that believes they're rejected and nobody cares. Send me to that one and let me walk through those lies that they've believed about themselves, to be touched by their infirmities, so that I can have compassion and I can bring healing to their life. I can be a revelation of the Father's faithfulness outside their ability to measure up, which causes them to stop measuring up and now enter into the rest. So that's meat. So when we're unskilled in who we truly are as righteousness, it basically means we're still protecting ourselves because we misunderstood our trauma. We misunderstood what we thought was loss and lack and pain and the need for justice. Okay. So this is why duality is transformed and becomes the banqueting table of the proof of divinity manifest in the attributes of God, or we can call it divinity dummy testing itself. It's God could never prove, he could not be exhausted in his resources, except his resources be put in a finite human experience with a bridge of duality and contradiction for God to prove he's inexhaustible. The inexhaustibleness of God. Not that God needed to prove anything to himself. That's just the side note of really the intention of slowing down to a deeper embrace of unity. Think about the glory Jesus had with the Father. He said, Father, give me the glory I had with you before the world was. John, was it 17:5, right? That they may be one as we are one. Now, what was he saying? Ephesians 1:10 says that there's a time, outside of time, in which God will reconcile everything that's on earth, that's in heaven, everything that's in him. So it's all in him being reconciled. So this is a reconciliation within God. So your human consciousness and human awareness is God reconciling with himself that which he hid from himself, to search out relationally about himself, to see himself where invisibility prevented himself. And yet it wasn't a prevention, but it was a plan of an unveiling and a marriage within himself. And so this isn't about God being less than himself when he hid himself from himself. It's that God knows all things, but never ends. And once you know all things, you've already ended and come to the end of yourself. So it's really God maintaining the reality of never ending and yet knowing all things, by hiding himself from himself within himself, known as you. And your personality is his diversity, in which when we put our minds above where we died, and our life is hidden in Christ in God, and when Christ, who is our life, is revealed, then shall we, the diversity of his personality, be revealed with him in glory. And that's the unique side of you in your soul, in which is the engrafted word able to save your soul, because the twisted imagery of duality that told you who you were and who you're not has been removed, and now duality has become the beautiful bridge of interaction and reconciliation. So even that is beautiful. So I hope this word has blessed you. Please like and share. I was going to do a video today with my wife, but she said she didn't fix her hair. She wanted to fix her hair. And I'm like, I'm just going to go do a video because I got some things to do. We're really excited. We do have some upcoming conference coming up. We did have to cancel the West Coast. I already knew it beforehand, but we still stepped out because I wanted to make sure we're willing to go no matter if our front end of our RV is falling off or not. We're going to go anyway. But all I kept getting was when we left Mississippi after winter, I saw Alabama, South Carolina, I saw New York, Tennessee, and Minnesota, and everything else had a question mark. And I'm like, okay. So we start reaching out and calling, and just doors weren't opening. And then we started having a little bit more issues with the RV, and we're like, okay, God, what are you saying? He's saying, well, I already told you earlier. Okay, I didn't get it. I guess I thought I needed a confirmation. And so we will be, Nancy, we will be in Houston, but not until October. I will have the exact dates on that. I've been reaching out privately with Don Keithley. For those of you that know Don Keithley, wonderful man of God, love his ministry. Him and I have a lot in common. Don Keithley and I are planning, and I just got confirmation from God's House with Sheila Begley in Houston, where Don Keithley and I are going to be doing, it's going to be a short conference, but the meetings will be longer so that we can all just flow. But it's going to be the second weekend in October at God's House. It'll be a Friday night and a Saturday morning, late, 11 a.m. Because God's House is leasing their church out to 2 other churches right now. And they are doing their ministry on Saturday nights. And then they have another church coming in Sunday. And so we will be there the second weekend of October at God's House. Other than that, we're going back to South Carolina. We're going to be doing a lot of local ministry there as well as ministry online. And we might hit some areas around, go to some places around that area once we get our RV in order and all of that. But the Father's bringing us into phase 3. And I do believe, and the fourth weekend, I want to say it's the fourth weekend, the weekend of the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd will be the Fam Bam Communion reunion in South Carolina. This is going to be our largest event we've ever done. We are expecting a lot of people. Now, this is going to be tent camping, people. There's a few places to stay for the guest speakers that are coming in, and there is hotels down the road. But I'm encouraging you to come to this and rough it with us. Bring a tent and a sleeping bag and camp out. There'll be showers, there'll be outdoor cooking and everything, and it's going to be amazing. We're hoping to get a big tent there to do the meetings outdoors. And this is going to be amazing. Several seasoned ministries that I've spoken with that are planning to come. Everything's not concrete yet, but we're going to get a flyer out as soon as possible. It's going to be in Orangeburg, South Carolina. You're going to come into, either fly into Columbia or into Charleston. I think Columbia is a little bit closer. I think it's 45 minutes compared to an hour and a half. And so it's $100 a piece for the conference because we provide all the food. And, obviously you're staying on the land, so there's no cost there. But, for just the cost of the folks that live there, we want to bless them and make sure that, all the water usage and electric usage and the whole conference. It will be the longest conference we've done, 6 sessions. And it starts on the Friday morning. It will start at 11 a.m. Friday morning. And then we will have a Friday night at 7 p.m. And then we will have a Saturday morning, and again, a Saturday night, a Sunday morning, and a Sunday night. We will have several guest speakers. I will not be running the show, thankfully. Glory to God. We're going to have all kinds of flavors. We're going to have several seasoned ministries coming together. We will have, it will be hosted by Impact Family with Rick and Sheila Watts and their church and ministry. And so they will be a big part of it. Father of Glory, our ministry, will be there, and our team. We will have, I believe we're still touching bases with Roar in Tennessee, but we're hoping they're going to be able to make it out, which is another seasoned ministry. Kay Fairchild has showed interest in wanting to come. We're waiting for confirmation, but Kay Fairchild will be one of the speakers. Jackie Myers and Lynn Joyful will also be speakers. I will be a speaker. My wife will be a speaker. And we're waiting on a few others for confirmation. So this is all in the works, and it's going to be amazing. Okay. So you don't want to miss that one. That one's going to be the weekend of the 21st of October. So get your flights. We will not be canceling that one because we'll be living there. So we'll be on the grounds with our motorhome. We will be taking a trip to Houston, 2 weeks before that for that weekend with Don Keithley. But other than that, and I think we might stop by and see Daniel Love and the crew over there while we're there. Maybe have some glory with them as well. That Sunday. And I haven't reached out to him, but I'm sure that's all good. But yeah, we will be in South Carolina probably next month, staying there all the way up until we go to Houston. So we're not doing a lot of traveling this year, and that's okay. I'm good with that. I'm ready to enter phase 3. And I believe, because we have gone to everybody around the nation, I believe a lot of y'all are going to come to us. I really believe people are going to come out, and they're going to take trips out, and they're going to spend some time with us, and we're just going to have a glorious time. So come on down once we get there, obviously. I mean, if you come on down now, we're not there, they might be going, hey, what's up? What do you guys need? We're here for Brian. 200 people show up on the land. Oh, you ain't here. But you'll have a glorious time with them because they're lovely people. You guys are going to love Trish and Terry, amazing couple. They have just been so hospitable in opening their land to us, and even allowing for, electric hookup and plumbing, and they're just lovely people, and just giving us so much grace and honor to put us on the land there. And Rick and Sheila Watts, if those of you who have never met them, these guys are amazing and so precious. They called us while we're driving Sunday to Minnesota last Sunday. They are driving, we're driving, and I get a call, and they're having their service on Sunday morning, and they put it on speaker for the church to pray over us and sing over us, and just love us. And I had to pull over because I just began to just get touched and emotional as I just experienced so much celebration through their lives. And I'm telling you, it's going to be amazing. Jackie Myers, our dear friend and co-laborer in Christ, will be there this weekend, right? I believe, Jackie, you're going to be there this weekend. And you're going to be prime ministering this weekend. So if you can go to Impact Family this weekend, you're going to get totally blessed by Jackie Myers. She's going to bless your socks off. She's one of the most accurate prophets I've ever met. And her accuracy just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And she carries a realm with her prophetic flow. And I'm telling you, Jackie's sound in this season is a now word and a go anointing. So, whoa, yeah. So whatever she prophesies over, you're going to begin to experience immediate transition, transformation, and acceleration. So get ready for that. It's going to be off the hook. We can't wait to see everybody and be together again. We love y'all. We are still getting reports from New York of that conference in New York, Jackie. We are still getting reports of everybody still just completely whacked and drunk in love, and just total transformation, fruit that remains. New York was off the hook. I mean, we have entered a new place in our consciousness, where we just arrived somewhere, and it has just been. I don't even have a language for it yet, except for the heavy, weighty, combustible realm of God, the fullness is the best way of putting it, fullness of God, manifest and filling all in all. That has been our experience. And my life is forever changed from that conference, from that gathering in New York. I know people think, well, Brian came and he brought. No, I came to you and we all brought. Okay, it is us that brought. Brian didn't bring squat. Brian is Brian, and everybody loved Brian, and it broke cork out of Brian, and we all drank from each other. Okay, so I didn't bring anything that anybody didn't already have. I just carry a river of consciousness for everybody to remember who they've always been. That's all. And so, but it's been amazing. It's been wonderful. Tennessee with Kay Fairchild was off the hook. It was amazing. We were all stuffed in this little motel room, but it was wonderful. The fellowship was wonderful. The time together was wonderful. The meetings were wonderful. Everybody got zapped and whacked in the glory. Really bonded a lot with Jackie Myers and Candy, her sidekick, her right-hand woman, and it was pretty amazing. It was really amazing. And to see everybody activate, years ago, I know I said I was already done with this, but let me just share from my heart for a minute. Years ago, I'd be invited to go do a meeting. And so I'm sitting there getting ready to minister. And next thing you know, the pastor passes the mic to so-and-so. All of a sudden, everybody's got something. And time's going by, and these are these church services that it's an hour and a half and that's it. And by the time everybody was done, I get to get up. I have 15 minutes. And I was so upset because I had this powerful revelation I wanted to bring, and everybody just stole all my time, and this is years ago. And this happened regularly, and it used to really irritate me. And I didn't know at the time what was going on. And it happened again in Tennessee, because I remember the first couple of meetings, it was really amazing. Kay got up and flowed, and it was just really powerful. But nobody really was getting up and giving anything. There was no real group participation. Everybody's just kind of sitting there waiting for the first person to say something, right? Don't want to be the first person. And so you could feel that awkwardness of people not really wanting to get up and join in front of people or in front of the camera or whatever. And and so the Saturday, Kay and I were back to back. She was at 2 and I was at 4. So you can imagine that's a long time before getting up and moving around. And so we knew dinner time was coming. So I wasn't going to take a lot of time. So I took about an hour and 20 minutes and I just revelated. And we just said, all right, let's go eat. And that was the end of that first one. And, everybody's like, what? It's done already? I thought we were going to have, get bammed with some lightnings from God and get hit with the glory and all that. And people were getting hit with it, but we weren't laying hands or any of that. And the next day, Sunday, everybody had something. And it came to my mind those past times. Now I know what's going on. It wasn't everybody stealing my time. I'm an activator. If I come into a room where nobody feels like they have anything to give, all I got to do is flow for about an hour. And the next time we get together, everybody will have something to give. They just get activated. I don't know what it is. I'm just a catalyst for that. And we watched it again on that Sunday. And I was just sitting there laughing within myself going, this is so awesome. I don't need to say a word. I don't need to get up and do anything. Now, of course I did have a flow, and there was a lot of people getting hit and whacked. And and we got to pray for Kay, which was an honor for me to pray for Kay. It was kind of a fulfillment of a vision I had a year ago, where I saw Kay whacked in the Holy Spirit, and I was praying for her. And so it all came to pass, and it was a beautiful time, and we just bonded so much. There was so much love. I have such a high respect for Kay Fairchild and what she carries. She is an amazing woman, and we love Candy, and they just so complement each other and what they carry in their togetherness. And I just love how they just let each other be each other. It's just a beautiful thing. And so, yeah, we really bonded well, and we really feel like that Kay and I, we're supposed to tag team more often, and be together more often. And I really believe our togetherness is so vital right now. I understand everybody has their own ministry, and we have to be faithful to our own vision. And that's fine. Have your diversity, have what you're called to carry, but we need to be together more. We need to see these ministries that have been laboring for decades, bringing forth what's manifesting today. We need to see us coming together. And that's why I believe the Fam Bam Communion Reunion, it isn't about Brian Christian. It isn't about Father of Glory. That is our one gathering yearly that is about celebrating all the ministries and connections together. And so I am so excited about that. And Jackie, I'll tell you, Kay was really excited to know that you're going to be there speaking. She was really excited about that. And she just loves Rick and Sheila. She just loves you, Lynn and Jackie. And so I am so excited. And I know eventually, we're going to be, like I said, I'm going to be doing a meeting with Don Keithley in Houston, but eventually I've already talked to him about it. And I've already reached out to Dr. Bishop Bill Hanshoe. And I said, look, we need to do something in Missouri with Dr. Bishop Bill Hanshoe, the professors, with Kay, with Don. We need to get them all together. We need to get us all together for just this major release. And I'm telling you, there will be a convergence. I mean, being in Tennessee at a historical place where the waters there flow to the ends of the world. It's actually the place where the waters pour in and flow to the ends of the world. It's the place of the age of Aquarius, with the man pouring out the water, where there historically, Kay being in ministry for 45 years, myself for 35 years, and been pioneering this realm of eternity and this oneness dimension, and us coming together in a historical place in the age of Aquarius, I don't think is a coincidence. And the realm that broke open there was so amazing. Everybody, people that were just there staying in the motel that weren't even a part of the meeting, were receiving. They're just open and receiving, and the people that worked there were just accommodating. And I mean, I just parked on the lawn. They just loved us, and they were just amazing people, and it was just so much grace and glory. So get ready, because we are in a new awakening, a new season. I don't like to use this word season because it has time on it, but there's no other way to put it. We've just gone to another glory. And the miraculous is instantaneous without praying. It's emanating. I mean, like, we're talking wholeness manifesting, miracles, signs, wonders, all of that. We don't have to do anything to get it. It's not even the focus anymore. It's just the byproduct of love. So I'm excited. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Please like and share. And, in closing, I will say, if you want to help us, we're going to need a lot of help coming up here. We haven't launched it yet, but I'm going to give you the sneak preview. We've already had 2 people sow $1,000 each toward the idea of us getting a new motorhome. Now, unfortunately, we got to fix this one before we can get a new one. What's the point of getting a new one? Well, because this one, I know the fixing of it's going to be a continuous thing, but we got to fix the frame on this. It's estimated right now at, depending on where we're at, anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000. So we're going to need help to get this thing done so we can get back to South Carolina. Otherwise, we're going to try to attempt to drive it all the way there. with the possibility of the whole front end falling off. So we don't want that. And and the other thing we're getting ready to do, and I'm believing for this. I don't know about you, saints, but I am free from caring about what people think about taking donations. I'm free from that mentality of really caring if people are offended because we live by faith and we ask people to give. I no longer care. There was a time I cared, and I try to be sensitive because the prosperity movement and preachers out there taking advantage of people, it's rubbed people the wrong way. But you know what? It's been years now. Okay. We need to let go of the victim mindset of using what people did in the past to manipulate us financially as the reason why to stay greedy in the present. We just need to let it go. And we need to realize that it takes money to fulfill a vision. Okay. So I'm encouraging people. We're looking for 200 people. Now, if I don't have 200 people on 10,000 followers, I've got 10,000 people on my Facebook, plus another 3,000 following, not counting over 900 on YouTube and not counting 200 and something on my podcast. I've got 13,000, 14,000 people that like my videos and that follow my ministry, or at least that's what it looks like on paper. I don't know. If I can't find 200 people that can sow $1,000 for us to get a new motorhome, I don't know what the problem is. And so that's what we're believing for. So if you're interested, I haven't done an official flyer or anything. If you're interested, you can go to the website, www.foggm.org. I will also post it in here when I'm done. And you can sow any amount to help us with the front end of this RV. But if you're interested in sowing towards the new motorhome, because this RV is going to become our house on land, and we're done with buying used old RVs. I don't care if we buy something a year old, but I ain't buying anything 10 years or 20 years. I mean, this is 25 years old. We're going with something newer. We want the Thor Outlaw. It's currently $258,000. I believe that by the time the finances come in, there'll be a used one there, and we'll get about 50,000 off. And I don't mind used because they've already fixed all the problems that came from the manufacturer. So we're looking to do that, and we're looking for 200 people to give $1,000. So if that's you and you want to give 1,000, I'm not spending that money. The 2,000 that's been given to us is put aside. Even if we're broke, we're not touching that money. I don't care how broke we are. We ain't touching it. Okay. And the donate button on my site is not working, you said, huh? I don't have my phone in front of me. I will check that out. I don't understand why that's happening. Try refreshing and refreshing your page, closing it down and opening it up. Sometimes if the page has been is stuck for a while, some of the buttons won't work. You can also give for Messenger. Give through Messenger as well. Messenger you can do the same thing. And in fact, I don't get charged if you give through Messenger. Make sure you sow it on the Facebook that has Shauna and I, the animated profile picture, not the other one. I don't use that Messenger. That's just a mirrored Facebook page for all the people that are international that check out our videos and YouTube and all of that. But if you want to, just make sure you can put a note. Once you give through PayPal, you can put a note, or you can send a note through Messenger. And you can say on there, this is for the new RV, so that I got your name. I put that aside so I don't mix it up with other people's giving. Because what we're going to do, we want to be able to hit this nation with a greater glory than what we have. And we've carried some heavy weighty glory, and we've carried some heavy impact with seeing communities break open all over the U.S. and connecting people and just seeing the restoration of family. So I know we got some good fruit that remains, but we want more. We want to hit it faster and harder. and we want to pour in more. And we've lost part of our consistency because of this RV. So we need consistency to be able to do this with a vehicle that's not going to have any problems. And we need to have enough space to where our kids have their space. We have ours, since we're, a family of 4 with 2 dogs in a motorhome. So it keeps us in unity to have our space. And so we're looking at the Thor Outlaw, and we need 200 people. This thing can happen in one day. And I believe you guys are going to help us. And you know why I believe Facebook people are going to help us? Because Facebook has been the ones that has kept us on the road. You guys, and some on YouTube, you guys have kept us on the road. You guys have been the ones. So I love Facebook. I love YouTube. It's never been a problem for me because I've found my divine connections, my family, on social media. And I know that most of you on here that know us, you know what we're about. You know our hearts. You know that we ain't about personal gain. Man, if I was about personal gain, I'd have quit the ministry a long time ago. We literally don't even take a salary. We live on what's called it's called a housing allotment, which basically means the ministry covers room and board. That's it. Everything that goes into this goes to get us to the people and to pour out. And we've put so much into this motorhome. We're sick of it. We don't want to do it. We want to put money into the people. We want to be able to raise up other ministries and get them out there on the road with us. We want to be able to, help widows more. We want to be able to pay people's bills, pay off their houses, help them get cars. We want to help people. Help us help people. We are missionaries to America. I understand there's plenty of third world countries that have it bad, and there's plenty of ministries that are helping them. God called us to help America. God, and also to sow into other ministries that are helping in other countries. So help us to do that. We do our 501c3, and we finally, over the last 3 years, we've been having paperwork problems. Don't ever do a nonprofit in California, just for your information. California is one of the few states you have to file 501c3 state as well as federal. And it's just a pain in the butt, a lot of paperwork. And so when we had gone federal 501c3, we accidentally put private foundation because I did all the paperwork myself. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll just check this box. Okay, God will take care of it. Well, it's $500 to file. And then at the end of the year, they're like, oh, well, you gotta do 13 pages of filing. I'm like, oh, I think I filed wrong. We're a public charity, not a private foundation. Can you fix that for us? I called them and they said, yeah, we'll fix it for us. Just fill out these other 2 papers and send us another $500. Well, me being stubborn, I didn't want to give them another $500. That to me was a waste of money. So we just roughed it and spent 40 hours at the end of the year putting together all these itemizations of stuff that the government has really no right to see. And so we finally, this year, we paid the $500. We got the paperwork done, and we are officially a mobile church of churches that doesn't have to file anything at the end of the year anymore. I don't have to file anything that is nonprofit at the end of the year anymore. Now, if we take a salary, that's a different story. But we are 501c3. We're getting ready to transfer our California side of the incorporation to South Carolina and get rid of California altogether. And we are excited. So for those of you that want to know where are we living, we were Washingtonians for about 1.5 years. Before that, California was our residence. And even though we were traveling, and we are now making South Carolina our permanent residence. Orangeburg, South Carolina is where we're going. We're going to be staying on some land there with some dear friends until we find some land. And once we get the land that we're believing for, and if anybody in South Carolina has land you want to donate, let us know that you want to donate to the ministry. I mean, if you've got 5 acres or 10 acres you want to donate, or even 1 acre, we're looking to start building community and a place of refuge for people deconstructing, ministries that are coming out of religion, fallen ministries that need to be restored, families that need to be restored, and bringing people through and restoring them and building relationship and having a place for our mobile team to rest at certain seasons and build and do life together and then launch out from there. So it's not the cultic community of the Jim Jones of the one man thing of getting away from the world. It's a resting place, a fuel station, a place of restoration, and a place, a launching pad to launch all over the nation with several people on the road together as we become a mobile community as well. Amen. So keep that in mind. That's our vision. And at some point I'll come on here and do a video all about the intricate design of our vision and the plan. And we're going to see what happens. But if you'd like to give, go to our website or sow through Messenger, Facebook Messenger. For those of you on YouTube, you can go to foggm.org, and I'll make sure that link is fixed and works. And I love you all. I appreciate you all. Please like and share. If you're not a subscriber of YouTube, please go on and subscribe. If we can go over 1,000, YouTube will hopefully start paying us as well. Let's let the world provide for what the Father is doing as well. Amen. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.